Welcome to the Brent Weinbach podcast. My name is Brent Weinbach, and recently I had a service done, and the person who was doing the service kept on calling me boss. You ever get that? Somebody calling you boss? And he was calling me boss a lot. He was saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'll do this first, and then I'll do that, boss. That sound good, boss? I said, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, you got it, boss. I said, oh yeah, make sure you do this thing. Or I didn't say it like that. I said, and also, can you do this part too? Because this and that or whatever. And then he goes, you got it, boss. Oh, that sure thing, boss. He kept on calling me boss a lot. And I thought that boss sounds condescending, doesn't it? Because I'm not actually his boss. You know, I didn't hire him at the company that he works for, and I didn't, you know, I can't fire him either. And I wouldn't, not that I would want to fire him. I don't want to fire anybody. But it did feel a little condescending. I mean, it felt a lot condescending, actually. Because calling me boss, it feels kind of like he's saying, whatever you want, your highness. It sounds like he's saying, your wish is my command, princess. I felt like he was calling me princess. And that just didn't seem right to me. And so I just kind of wonder if he's calling me boss. What is he calling his actual boss? Is he calling him master? You got it, master. Is he the air conditioning just went on. I don't know if you're going to hear this on the microphone, but the air conditioning's on, so you're going to hear a blowing sound. I hope you like blowing ambiance, because that's what you'll be hearing right now. Just maybe it feels like we're in, you know, in an airplane. Imagine if we're on an airplane right now, okay? You're just taking a flight with me. I'm your captain. What if he could call me captain? I bet he calls his boss captain. I feel like you're captain right now because air conditioning is on, and I don't know, it has that airplane sound. Sometimes an airplane sound, I like it. You know, it's kind of comforting. I wish it was easier to sleep on airplanes. You know, I wish they just had beds on airplanes. I know they do, but it's too expensive. Anyway, he was calling. I wonder if he's actually saying your highness to his boss, because if he's calling me boss, he can't possibly be calling his boss boss. But it does seem condescending. And do people who say boss, are they saying it because they think they're subversively being condescending or something like that, or are they just not even thinking about it? They just think, oh, that's a normal thing to say, is to call people boss. Well, anyway, I don't really like it. And so I started calling him boss. I said when he said, "Okay, you got it, boss." I said, "Thank you, boss." And then I started saying if he had any other questions or I had questions for him, I kept on saying boss, because I thought, okay, you want to see how do you like it to be called boss? Hey, so I'm going to do this part, and then I'll do that part right afterwards, and I'll finish up with this. I said, all right, thanks a lot, boss. And boss, if you can do this part too while you do that, that'd be great, boss. He said, yeah, you got it, boss. I said, thank you, boss. I said, okay, boss. And at one point, he said, I think he said something, and I was far away from him, and I couldn't hear him. And I said, what's that, boss? Okay, bye, boss. I think I said bye to him like that. Bye, boss. I'll see you next time, boss. I was trying to use boss as much as possible. I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. Not that it's medicinal, but I just wanted him to see what it felt like to be called boss and see if he felt... I wonder if I made him start thinking about boss a little more, you know? I get it, that he is in some way working for me. But there's a difference between working for somebody and then working for your company and then you actually have a boss there. Anyway, I'm not his boss. That's the point, is I'm not his boss, and you don't need to say that. And if you call me boss, I'm going to call you boss. So that happened, and then I think a week later, or a couple weeks later, I went to a food place, and I ordered food, and the guy was calling me boss. Is that a new trend or something? Are people saying boss now? Is that a thing? I wonder if people are starting to say boss. I wonder if that's a new trend. And if it is, okay, so be it. But I guess so be it. I guess it feels less condescending if it is a trend, but I don't know. Anyway, I started calling that guy boss too at the food place. Although I will say this. The way he said boss to me didn't quite feel as, I don't know, in my mind, condescending as the other guy. Are women saying boss too? That's another question. Are women saying boss? Come to think of it, I wonder if I could take it to the next level, and that the next time someone calls me boss, I call them something that's not as obviously, obviously weird as king, or well, actually people do say king these days. They do call each other king, but as master or your highness or something like that. But what's a word what can I call somebody to retaliate if they call me boss? I mean, there's another angle, which is to call them peon or something like that, or call them peasant or something. Thank you, peasant. Kind of just play into if you call me boss, then I'll call you, slave or something or whatever, Thank you, slave. Oh, excuse me, slave, can you get this? Can you do that part too? What can I do for you, boss? I say, well, slave, you can, I'll get the French fries with the kebab. I'll get a kebab with French fries, slave. Does that sound good? Or, yeah, what else? Or I could just call them, rookie or something like that. You want to go a little lighter on it. Yeah, okay, rookie. You got a rookie. Fresh meat. I can call him fresh meat, maybe. Hey, fresh meat, how's it going? I'll get the tiki masala burger with fries. Got that, fresh meat? You got that, you toilet bowl scrubber? That's what they called 8th graders, is toilet bowl scrubbers. 8th graders. Wait, is that what they called them? Toilet bowl cleaners. They called 7th graders scrubs. I can call them scrub. Hey, scrub, how's it going? Hey, boss. Hey, boss, what can I do for you? Well, scrub, you can start by stop calling me boss. Got it, scrub? All right. What's a little more tolerable is when someone say mister. I'm fine with mister. What can I get for you, mister? Even though that's a little weird, too. Sometimes, speaking of bosses, there are certain people who exude an energy of a dominant energy, and they do feel like they're the boss of a room. There's some major alpha type men out there, and women. And I don't know if I'm one of them. Maybe around certain people, I can be that way a little bit. Maybe I can be the boss around certain people. But generally speaking, I try to not do that. I don't want to dominate the room in such a way. But I met this young man recently. I'll say that he's a comedian, and he's in his mid to late 20s. Okay, he's a lot younger than me, and I felt like he was older than me. He had this energy. He has a heavy presence. He just felt really in command and experienced and just had this kind of confidence or something. And just, I'm not saying I'm not confident. I am. But he brought with him this, I'd never met him before. I met him in person recently. And he just felt really strong, and he was dominating. Energy just was dominating me, you know? I felt like a real gimp. He made me feel like a real gimp. He didn't even realize it. And some people are just born with that, I think. I think that I thought, how could this guy be this way at 27 or whatever? Well, for one thing, he is pretty tall. So I think height can help you be dominant just automatically. But he works with a lot of celebrities, and I think celebrities in general are pretty dominant, actually. And he works with a lot of celebrities, so maybe that's kind of rubbed off on him. Or just having worked with a lot of dominant figures, it makes him dominant too. I guess it has rubbed off on him to some degree. That people who are, the spotlight's on them all the time, and then they're just, overly worshipped. Celebrities are worshipped. Celebrities are kind of like gods in a way, They're projected onto screens, and they're big. They're larger than life. They're these sort of large figures. And I guess they're kind of small figures if they're on TV, unless you got a big TV. Some people have got big TVs. But celebrities are kind of gods, and so I guess if you're, hanging around gods a lot, then when you're hanging around kind of regular average people, then you'll start to just feel like they're gimps, and they're not regular people. They're just gimps. And meanwhile, or whatever, and then maybe the dominant, maybe the gods that you hang out with are just those. For him, those are average people or something like that. So he was just really dominant. And then I was thinking to myself, what happens when you put alpha dogs in the same room together? What happens when alphas collide? I thought this could be an interesting TV show, an interesting reality show maybe, or something, because there are people who just dominate rooms, and it's hard to sort of become a part of the conversation in a way because they're so dominant. I see this in celebrities are like this, but also even people that aren't celebrities can have this presence that just makes you feel kind of, less. Makes you feel a little less than usual. And if there's two people like that in the same room, how does that play out? Again, I'm not trying to say I'm some sort of gimp, okay? I just think, look, I try to, I think in general, I just try to be pretty approachable and, pretty, whatever, grounded in a way or something like that. But I know that I have in the past sometimes maybe, around certain people they've brought out a dominant side of myself or something like that. Or something that made me feel like, okay, maybe I'm dominating the room right now. But I feel like what I'm talking about is people who, well, first of all, it seems like they like to be the dominant one in a room. I mean, I don't mind being the dominant one in a room. I like it, to be honest. I do feel powerful sometimes. I like that. But some people just really like to wield their power, it seems like. They like to be a real boss. So what happens if you put a real hardcore alpha in the same room with another alpha? Because, okay, when it comes to comedians, those people, they want to be the funniest person in the room. They don't even really like other people being funny. And they just want the attention all the time. And if there's two people that are like that, what happens? Did they start to, do they feel like they want to fight each other or what? So let's see what happens. Let's just we got to get a bunch of sort of, more submissive type people in a room, and then put two dominants in there and see who tries to dominate who. I just feel like that could be interesting. There could be an interesting, almost like a psychic fight. It almost could be like the final battle of scanners. Maybe you put two alphas in a room together. Maybe their faces start melting or something. Maybe they're gonna. It could be interesting, is all I'm saying. It'd be almost kind of like the show BattleBots, but instead I think it's called When Alphas Collide. I think that's what it would be called. And you just put them in the room and see what happens. Or do they get along? Or do they connect on a dominant level? Yeah, I don't know. I'm saying they don't know each other. Two strangers, two dominant people. I wonder what that was like for people like John Wayne. If John Wayne was in the room with... I can only imagine that Cary Grant was a dominant alpha type person. But I don't know. I never met him. But what would that be like? I'm trying to think of another. Okay, how about even Clint Eastwood? Clint Eastwood in the same room with John Wayne. What is that like? Or, let's say, I get the sense that Tom Hanks is pretty dominant. What would Tom Hanks be like in a room with who matches Tom Hanks? Let's say Denzel Washington. What happens? I just want to see what happens. I just want to see how that plays out. People probably fight. Now, what about some older figures like George Washington? Do you think George Washington was a dominant man? He seems so serious, doesn't he? I can't. Are there any pictures of George Washington smiling? Actually, even if he wasn't smiling, or even if there aren't, or even if there were, when it comes to somebody like Benjamin Franklin, I don't know if I've ever seen him smiling in any paintings, but he seems like he would be laughing a lot. I just, the way that Benjamin Franklin looks, he seems like a joyous kind of guy. He seems like he would laugh and make jokes, even though I've never seen him smiling before. But meanwhile, George Washington seems serious. They wanted Benjamin Franklin to be president at one point. In fact, they wanted him to be the first president, but he said, no, we should have somebody who was a general do it. And he said, you should have George Washington do it. That makes me think he probably was some kind of joker in a way, Who knows? Maybe George Washington, I don't know if he accepted the role easily or not. Did he say, oh, I want to be the first president? Maybe. But I just think that George Washington, we see these faces all the time. We see them on our money, and we see them, depicted in history books and stuff, but we don't really know what these people were like. And I'm kind of just curious about that, about what were these colonial figures like in real life? Were they joking around? George Washington, were these people were they farting and stuff? Did they ever make jokes about that? Maybe, I'd like to know. I guess there's probably biographies out there that probably cover this stuff, right? Franklin seems, I don't know, he seems more laid back to me. He seems, I don't know, he seems like he's thinking about things. He's thinking about electricity, and he's, I mean, he started libraries. He kind of got libraries going. So that makes you think, okay, so this guy's he's intellectual. He's probably laughing at stuff, I think. Benjamin Franklin. You know what I found out recently is that Benjamin Franklin's son was a loyalist. That's interesting. His son was not for the revolution. He was against it. His son was pro England, and I think he died in England too. That's kind of strange, right? Is that that somebody who was a huge revolutionary guy, his son, who's younger than him, the new generation, is not? It's like family ties. It is interesting to me that Benjamin Franklin had a family ties situation going on, a situation comedy, in fact. I mean, he seems like a comedic guy, Benjamin Franklin. He had a sitcom. You could do Family Ties and set it in the colonial period, and it would work. So that's interesting. I mean, you guys have seen Family Ties, right? The parents are hippies, and the kids are conservative. That's the dynamics. The kids are Republican, and the parents are, liberal, Democrats or whatever. So I guess it's an age-old story. I mean, that was the hook of that show, but I mean, it goes back to Benjamin Franklin. Isn't it kind of nuts that dinosaurs existed? I think we take it for granted. I do, okay? That dinosaurs, I can't believe that dinosaurs were on the same earth that we exist on. Because dinosaurs seem like, they seem like monsters or something. I mean, these are big monsters. And they existed in the same world as that we exist in, but just at a different time. That's just pretty nuts, right? Dinosaurs are nuts. Dinosaurs are big. Imagine if Godzilla was real. Okay? But imagine if Godzilla existed, but guess what? He did exist. Dinosaurs. Okay, I know Godzilla was a lot bigger than dinosaurs. And, he was a lot bigger than dinosaurs. I mean, Godzilla was the size of skyscrapers. And then dinosaurs were, from what I understand, maybe 3 times as tall as humans. Or maybe taller than that. I think they were about 20 feet tall. So, or the big ones were, at least the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Rex is kind of a dominant name, though, huh? If you name somebody Rex, yeah, they're going to be kind of a dominating kind of alpha type person, Put 2 Rexes in a room, see what happens. What if you had a GIMP named Rex? That would be interesting. But anyway, I mean, it would just be kind of a conflicting issue there, Actually put 2 GIMPs in a room, who's going to out-GIMP the other? That's another challenge. Which GIMP ends up becoming more submissive than the other, 2 GIMPs in a room, when GIMPs collide, what happens? So dinosaurs are these kind of giant, lizards or something. I mean, they're giant. They're monsters. It seems like something from a science fiction movie, doesn't it? And just, unfortunately, we just don't know what it's really like. We don't know anyone who has been around long enough to know what it was like when dinosaurs were around, but man, I wish we knew more about that. It's hard to fathom that on the same planet. Okay, dinosaurs to me seem like things you see in a different planet or something like that. They seem like monsters from another planet, and yet it was on this planet. There were dinosaurs walking around where you are right now, probably. These monsters from a fantasy story. It's just crazy that existed. It's crazy that they existed and that they were wiped away at one point. It's crazy that these creatures, these monsters that dominated the earth, got wiped out. And it makes you wonder, will we get wiped out at one point, and will there be a new species that comes forth? Is it possible for there to be another big wipeout? I mean, there is at the beach, people experience wipeouts all the time, surfers. But will there be any wipeouts on the scale of the dinosaurs going extinct? Dinosaurs roamed the earth, dominated, and I guess they dominated because of their size and their... It's hard to wrap my head around the idea that there were herbivore dinosaurs. How did that happen? You'd think a creature that big is going to eat any kind of thing, but some of them were eating plants only. How is that possible? It's also interesting how did we get so intelligent? I mean, humans are the most intelligent creature on the planet now. How did that happen? We got way more intelligent than all the other animals, to the point where we're not even animals anymore. How did that happen? And now we dominate. In the end, brains triumphs over brawn, doesn't it? Because brainiacs can create machines to dominate physically more powerful creatures. It's a wild world we live in. It's a wild world, and I don't know how we got this far, but how long did dinosaurs live for? That's the question. And how much longer do humans have until the next wipeout? I saw these lovebirds. In the spring. In the springtime, these lovebirds were just trying to do their thing. I think they were lovebirds. They looked like a couple. It was these two birds. I don't know what kind of birds they were, but it was these two birds. They were the same color. They looked like the same type of bird. And they looked like a young couple to me. I mean, it was kind of, I hated to do it, but they were building a nest. Well, one of them was building a nest. One of them just sort of sat there. And they were building a nest on a bad place to put a nest. It wasn't a good spot for them. It was on I saw this nest that they were building. It was near a thing that was kind of mechanical and stuff, and it wasn't a good spot for them. They should be up in a tree or something. But then again, I don't know, maybe there's definitely, I've seen raccoons climbing up the trees. I mean, they could get up into the nest there, I guess, but I don't know. This wasn't going to be a good place for them to have a nest. So I had to get rid of their nest. They started building this nest, and I went out there, and first of all, the one that wasn't bringing the twigs to the nest was sort of just sitting there and would not leave. I got real close to the bird, and I was saying, "Hey, you got to go. You got to get out of here. This isn't a good spot for you." And she just sat there. I'm not trying to say that the female bird was the one that was sitting there, but I got the sense that, okay, look, in the bird world, it just seems like maybe these roles are more defined, but I don't know actually, but it seemed like she's probably there because maybe she was pregnant or something. I don't know. They're building a nest for a reason, right? So maybe she's kind of getting situated with the situation, was maybe going to, lay out some eggs. So I was thinking it was a woman. It was a woman bird. So I said, hey, you got to go. I mean, you can't do this. I think, this isn't a good place for you, I think. And she wouldn't leave. I was getting really close to the bird. She wouldn't leave. And so finally I kind of clapped my hands a little bit, and she finally flew away. And then, I kind of just took the twigs out. I don't even know how they were going to keep these. It just didn't seem like a stable environment for them. But I took the twigs out and kind of put them away somewhere else. And then they would rebuild some of the nest, the next day or a couple days later. But I would see these two birds over the course of months. I'd see them kind of together sometimes, just scouting out somewhere where they can find a place to live. And I felt bad to have to take their work down, but I think it was for their own good, right? But there was something about them that just seemed like they were a young couple, and that they seemed like they loved each other. It seemed they seemed like a young couple with looking for somewhere to settle. And it was almost kind of cartoonish, the way that it looked. I would see the two of the birds, and they were looking around, and then they go off, and it was always the same two birds. And then it was the same process over the course of a couple months. One would sort of hold over the fort, and the other one would just gather these various twigs and just bring them back and drop the twigs down and make the nest. I just wish they picked a better spot, but they were just so fixated on this one spot somehow. They just got attached to it. I get it. I get attached to things too, but, I'm adverse to change, but this wasn't a good spot for them. Believe me, it wasn't a good spot. Oh, I don't know. Tell me otherwise. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have let the nest just happen there, but I kind of think it was probably not a good idea. But maybe trees are kind of played out these days because raccoons are just sort of all over those trees. They're just, or there's other stuff up in the tree. I mean, even squirrels. Are squirrels going to mess with the nests? In fact, it is actually kind of a wonder how even the cliche of a nest in a tree even exists. I mean, aren't those prone to, to attack? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of creatures that can get up into a nest and mess things up. Well, I just, I think it's really amazing the work that one guy was doing, just bringing all those twigs together and making the nest, though, for his woman, or whatever, his girlfriend, or whatever, or wife, or whatever it is. I don't know what the status of their relationship was. I mean, I don't know if how committed they were, but they seemed pretty committed, though. I think they were probably married. I think, and I look. It felt bad to have to keep taking the nest down, but what else am I supposed to do? I feel like, I don't know if it's because if I'm getting older or what, but I'm finding incompetence more and more in everything I'm involved or I interact with. How is that for you people? As you get older, are people getting more incompetent about things, or is it just me being more uptight and more picky about stuff as I get older? Because it just feels like everything I do, or everything I'm not involved with, but anything that I need done, be it ordering food or someone coming over and calling me boss or whatever. It just feels like they just don't do that thorough of a job. People just don't do a thorough job doing things I just feel like I end up needing to do it myself. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting more and more picky or something like that. That's the disease of the single man, right, or woman, the single person, the spinster. The spinster gets more obsessed with their own, insignificant world, right? And so maybe that's what's happening with me, I think, as a sort of spinster of sorts, is that you just start to, there's a cycle of, having things the way you like them, and then you start to just fixate on imperfections with your things because you're so dialed into your own cycle of, just whatever, of habit. But I oftentimes I'm just thinking, oh, this person didn't do a good job doing this. I went to the car wash the other day and just it wasn't done very well at all. I had to bring it back. I said, hey, can I just do it? I'm wiping the car down myself. I'm just saying I'm wiping all these things off of the car, and everything is dirty looking. I said, this isn't vacuumed very well. I never really thought this way in the past. If I went to the car wash, I would just think, okay, that's it. Or are people just doing worse jobs these days? It's so often that I'm on the phone with customer service now, or just there's always something that is just not done competently. I'm always just undersatisfied with stuff now, it seems, when it comes to, even when it comes to just going to Chipotle or something like that, The other day I went to Chipotle and they charged me twice, stuff like that, and it was a kind of a hassle to get that charge reversed and stuff, I knew it too. I knew that it had charged, and then the person behind the counter didn't think it went through, and I said, I'm pretty sure it went through, but did it anyway. Anyway, whatever, Sometimes they say you're in good hands. You know the phrase, oh, you're in good hands with this one. Does that mean, that makes you kind of wonder about if someone has good or bad hands. Oh, if that person has bad hands, you don't want to work with them. You're in good hands. It's kind of an interesting expression, right? You're in good hands. What if somebody's hands are, mediocre? You're in good hands. You're in good hands. I wonder how did that expression get started? Because it just makes you think about bad hands. Makes you think about jazz hands also. It just makes me think no, it doesn't really make me think that. If I thought about it more, it makes me think about actual hands. I know hands is a figurative thing, but really, when the phrase "you're in good hands," I think comes most into play when you're getting a massage from somebody, right? That's probably where it started. Is you probably went to the massage parlor, and the hostess said, "Hey, I'm going to set you up with Bob. He's our top masseur, and I think you're in really good hands with Bob." And then Bob came in and he had great hands. He had manicured nails, and he had a firm but gentle touch. Bob was amazing that day. He treated your body right. And that's how the phrase started. Bad hands. Okay, Bob was great, but what about Joey? You don't want Joey. Joey's got bad hands. How did it go from massages to other stuff, though? I guess most of what we do involves our hands in some way or another. Technicians use their hands. I like to get I get my free massage. I used to get a free massage at the airport. You go to the airport, and if you opt out of going through the ATD body scanner, free massage. It feels good too. They get into your crevices. They kind of cup they use their hand to kind of cup your, sort of between the balls and the thigh. It feels pretty good. When they slide your hands down your body, I think to myself, I'm in good hands right now. Feels like I'm in good hands. They're finally doing away with taking off your shoes at the TSA. Finally. You know, I don't know if you know this about me, but I've been trying to get this going for years. I mean, in the 2000s, I want to say in the mid to late 2000s, I was so annoyed with the shoe thing because it was just one guy, one failed attempt, the shoe bomber guy, and because of that, they made people take off their shoes for over 20 years. And, going up until now. But at the time, let's say it had been 5 years or something since the incident or whatever. I don't know. When was the incident? Whenever the incident was, even if it was a couple years, I just thought, this is so pointless. There's so many reasons why taking off your shoes is a bad idea. And, it holds up, creates traffic at the airport security, and it's also unsanitary. It stinks. It's really gross. I had all these ways to navigate how disgusting it was and to avoid the gross parts of it until I did TSA pre-check, which, that was worth the money, But I went on to, I don't know what it's called, petition.org or something like that. I went to some government site and I started a petition to try to do away with the shoes off at the airport thing. And unfortunately, they make it really difficult to get the petition signed because people have to create accounts to sign in to sign the petition. And so that made it so that I didn't really get any signatures, but I was trying to do away with that TSA take the shoes off thing because it's so pointless and it's so unsanitary. I remember going to the airport and just people taking off their shoes and stepping around, and it stunk, and they're putting their shoes in these bins where you put your other stuff, jackets and things. And these are the bottoms of people's shoes that steps in poo and things. Not me, I watch where I step. But other people step in poo. And then I remember seeing people stepping on the floor and there was condensation from their feet or sweat, and it was on the floor and it stunk. I remember this one time it was smelled so bad, and they brought this other team of people to clean it up. They had spray and stuff. They're spraying around. And this other guy, one of the TSA agents said because I was using the plastic bags that are supposed to be for your liquids, I put them on my feet as covers. And he was thinking that was weird to me. I said, this is precisely the reason why I'm doing this. This is before I had TSA pre-check. And he said, all right, you got a point, or something like that. It was gross. I mean, I bet you there was an uptick in athletes' feet back then because people were spreading their fungal feet around to people. It was gross, and it was just so it wasn't hygienic. It was created traffic, and it was just it's a hassle that we shouldn't need to do. Taking off your shoes. I mean, what if you're wearing wrestling boots? What if you're a wrestler? Okay, what if you are Jake the Snake? Or you're the Ultimate Warrior, and you're just trying to catch a flight. Say you're running late for a flight. You're trying to make it to WWF or WrestleMania. You're trying to make it to WrestleMania 36, and you can't get there because you got to unlace your, big boots or whatever they are. What if you are in an industrial? What if you're in Nitzer Ebb and you're wearing industrial boots? You can't just take those off easily. It's hard to do that. Well, then they would say, well, you should have planned ahead. You should have put your boots in your bag and just, wore some Birkenstocks or something instead. But I don't like to wear Birkenstocks is what the, industrial person is saying. They're saying, I don't wear Birkenstocks. Me? That's a hippie look. I don't do that. I'm industrial. I have to wear boots. And they have to be laced up all the way. Plus, I have athlete's feet. I want to keep that contained. So it stunk. It stunk, and it's finally over. They're finally getting rid of it. I can't believe they're finally getting rid of it. It's crazy because back then, 20 years ago, I thought, they're bound to get rid of this sometime soon, right? What are they going to do? Do this forever? I did kind of think they were going to do it forever, but I can't believe the day has finally come. It doesn't even matter for me anymore, anyways. But you know what? I'm happy for it to be a more sanitary environment for everyone else who doesn't have TSA pre-check. I opened up a bag of nuts recently, and it smelled really bad. It smelled like fart. It smelled like a fart. Have you ever? It smelled like farts, multiple farts, different flavors, and I wondered what was wrong. I went on the internet and I typed in, "Why do my nuts smell like farts?" And apparently, I guess if certain nuts can go rancid, then they can smell like farts. Apparently, so I took them back. I actually, believe it or not, even though they smell like farts, I ate them. I ate my fart nuts, and they were macadamia nuts, and they were kind of chewy actually. So I didn't get diarrhea though. So good for me on that. These fart nuts did not give me diarrhea, believe it or not. And I stayed clean, but I did return them the next day. I said, or 2 days later, I only ate a few of them just to see what it was like. I thought, maybe it's just a new smell, I mean, maybe it's just it'll dissipate after a while or something like that. Because sometimes when you open up, if you open up sliced turkey for the first time, or you open up, something else, potato chips for the first time, it has a kind of a weird smell. I thought it was just that. I thought, it's just maybe it smells like fart, even though I've never smelled farts on my nuts before. But anyway, look, I'm glad that I didn't get diarrhea from my fart nuts, but watch out for those fart nuts. Macadamia nuts, you open it up, it smells like farts. I've never smelled that before. It was a different experience, but I think I'm going to wrap this up, this episode. But I'm going to continue on, and look, I got phone messages from people, and we can take a listen to those. Maybe we'll take a listen to those. That's what I'll do. We'll listen to the phone messages, okay? And then what else? We will also, I don't know. We'll get into that. And if you want to leave messages on the on the Brent Weinbach podcast phone line, you can call 213-207-6952. And that is the phone number for the Brent Weinbach podcast hotline, we'll call it. And you can leave a message there, and I don't know, you can just express yourself. You can tell me a secret, or you can, tell me maybe there's an issue you need help with. Maybe I can be of assistance there. I can give you some good ideas, maybe. Or maybe you've got a good idea for me. But yeah, we'll get into that. 213-207-6952. And if you want to watch this show on video, okay, let me say this first. Well, if you want to watch it on video, you go to youtube.com/Brent Weinbach podcast. If you want to continue on with me for the extended version of this show, when I'm going to get into some of these messages in it, you can go to patreon.com/poundcast. POUNDCAST. Okay, that's where the extended episodes are, and that's where lots of, I think I want to say hundreds of episodes are extended. Okay, you get access to all of them there, but you probably already know that because you probably already are on it. But in case you're not, that's where to go, and you get the episodes a couple days early. And thank you to Jack Birch for his help behind the scenes. And I think that's about it. So, my name is Brent Weinbach, and this is the Brent Weinbach podcast. Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you in just a little bit at the extended version of the show. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.